Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Britton's Hanging Hour. We are back. We were on a break for a little bit there, with some exceptions, but we're back now. I'm here with Aaron M. Payne, also known as Bibliotheory. It's been like 6 or 7 months in the making here, but we're here now. So how are you doing today, sir? How are you doing this evening, I should say?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me on. Britton, I've seen you have some pretty fun guests on your channel over the past few months. What do you call this again? Your power hour or your
Hangout hour, yes.
hangout hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
That's awesome.
ours, yeah. No, yeah, no, when I started this BookTube channel up again, I'm like, there's this whole new community. I'm gonna find some
hmm
new guests, and it was all downhill from there. Um,
Who was your first guest?
it's my first guest, my friend Tig, though he's gonna go by another name once he gets his book out there. So sorry if
Oh.
he watches this. He probably won't. But he also wrote a book, so I guess you're an indie author now as well.
I know it's weird. It's weird saying that since I started the booktube journey like you not that long ago, and that's kind of when I started getting into the indie books. Like my first indie book was The Fall by Ryan Kyle,
Mm.
which you might know that guy. He's pretty
I've
big in the indie
I've heard of
space
him.
now.
Yes.
And that series is just blown up. But like at the time, I didn't even realize that there's this huge distinction between indie and trad pub. But now that I've been in the booktube space, I mean, I'm so pro indie. I love indie books. The majority of my TBR, like this year and what I've read, has been indie. So it's just weird to say now that I have something coming out here very soon of my own. So
Yeah, I've been
it's
I've
a
been
strange feeling.
I've been dipping my toes. As a matter of fact, I'm reading an indie book right now. I'm reading Philip Chase's second book of his
Oh,
Eden
there we go.
trilogy, Prophet of Eden, which is pretty good. Though it took me a minute to get back into it because I'm like, okay, here's all the characters.
hmm
So yeah, um,
That's
but
the second
um,
one or the third one?
that is the second one. Though there
Second
is
one.
a funny
Okay.
story. I accidentally got the third one before I got the second one on Amazon, so that was kind of embarrassing. But aside from that, I'm doing all right. I've been dipping my toes in the indie books recently. Like, oh man, I
hmm
read Joe Burns' book,
Oh,
Wistful
Wistful
Ascending,
Ascending.
which was
Ooh, good
really
stuff.
good. Actually, I really, again, I really don't want to sound like it's like a backhanded compliment because I was like, it surprised me a lot because I thought it would be like really fun, and I mean, it is a lot of fun, but like, there's
hmm
also like, there's depth and like,
So much,
a
yeah.
surprising
Rohan.
amount that I wasn't expecting there. And again, I don't want to like, again, I love Joe, and I don't want to sound like I'm like dissing on him. It's just, it's funny. I actually had him on not too long ago because I do have guests on again, and
hmm
he's like, Rohan reminds me of you. You kind of have this sort of everyman kind of persona going, but like you got some deeper thoughts in there. And he's like, thanks. It's that actually, and Rohan is basically me. How I basically, when I was writing it, he said I generally would think, how would Rohan react? So there we go.
hmm
So, or how would I react? And I'm like, oh, that makes
Wistful
sense.
Ascending. That was my top read so far this year. It blew me away.
Yeah, it's
So
it's really good, and I really
yeah,
I
I
really
got it.
liked it a lot.
I got it right over here. Got the first two.
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah, he actually gave me the second and third one because he's a great guy. Um, so that was also nice. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that book a lot. So it's good. It's a good palate cleanser reading as well because like
hmm
God, what was I reading? Well, I just started Jonathan Strange in RL, which I actually just finished this month. So there you go.
What book was
Um,
that?
Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which is
I don't think I heard of that one.
it's a gigantic fantasy novel that I was reading, and I'm like, I'm gonna need something lighter to, kind of as well, because
hmm
and yeah, no, just good people, and he wrote a good book. So yeah, there we go.
It's really funny about your story about um, Philip Chase's book. He bought the third one first. I had something similar to that, but not related to books. It was to video games,
Oh no.
where my buddy and we wanted to play the Witcher series together. And he's like, "Go ahead and go buy it." I was like, "Okay." He bought The Witcher 2 because a lot of people start there, not even thinking to play the first game. I accidentally bought The Witcher 1 and started playing it. I was like, it feels dated, but it's a lot of fun. I like it a lot. And I had no idea I was playing The Witcher 1. I told him, he's like, "Oh, what the heck?" I told him it's so much fun. You just go back and download it because it's worth it. And we both
Yeah,
went through the entire game.
yeah, it's funny with The Witcher. I went backwards with my play because I played 3 first, and I'm like, wow, this is a really great game. And I played 2, and I'm like, oh wow, this is a really good game. So there you go. It's
Oh, did you play 1 at all?
I haven't yet. Maybe I'll get it at some point and play it. I just
Yeah,
haven't gotten around
the
to it.
action's like click based versus what you have now in The Witcher 3 and 2. Like you just click, kind of like League of Legends, I think, if I remember right, where you just click on the bad guy, just click him to death.
Yeah, but I mean, you've blown up pretty quickly. To be honest with you, it's or at least seems to me. I mean, you got a bunch of people on there on your channel. You talk to Quinn from Quinn's Ideas. Like, my God, man, like I've tried to reach that guy for a while. I don't know how to reach that guy.
I don't know how that one happened. I was so happy that it did though, because he is the Mr. Dune guy. I've been watching his channel way before I started mine, so
Oh, I watched
he
him
was just the
back when he
perfect
was
guy.
Ideas of Ice and Fire. So yeah, I've
Oh
been around for a
wow,
while. Yeah,
yeah,
before he's
he
like
was the
doing.
perfect choice for me for that video in particular. Was Dune versus Hyperion, so because he has lore videos on both those books, and Hyperion is my favorite book of all time. So I wanted somebody that one was knowledgeable in both books, but is also a booktuber, and he is one of the goats, the goat booktuber right there.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the most successful in our sphere anyway. I not discounting Daniel Green anyway.
Yeah, and we're really like the booktubers I usually watch kind of like gravitate towards science fiction and fantasy, but
Mm.
there's a whole other spectrum of booktubers out there that are even our genres, right? So there's so many people talking about books, but we're on our little niche right now, which is pretty cool as well.
Yeah, I remember when I started my channel again. I'm like, well, there's these books that a lot of people aren't really talking about. I guess I'll do that. I guess I'll do it if no one else will. So there you
Hmm.
go. But like, how did you start? I always like to ask this to booktubers when I have them on. But how did you start your channel?
Well, one of my friends, a buddy of mine, he started a Genshin Impact YouTube channel, and the videos are hilarious. And if you don't know what Genshin Impact is, that's like an anime game that kind of looks like Zelda, like Breath of the Wild, like Zelda, but it's
Mm-hmm.
anime characters. And he has some really funny videos, and he was doing great. Another buddy of mine started his own channel on indie games, so like Steam games that have like less than 10 reviews or 100 reviews or less.
Huh.
I was like, you know what? I want to start a YouTube channel too, but what am I going to talk about? Even though I had a whole stack of books right here, I'm like, oh, put two and two together. Let's talk about some books here. My very first video, which is a bookshelf tour, because there was a while I went down the wormhole of just clicking through, bookshelf tour, bookshelf tour, bookshelf tour, and I was like, you know what, that'd be a good first video to do, and that's kind of how it
Oh
started.
hell, I haven't done a bookshelf review or tour yet. I have one right there. I have one in my room. So, and also have a bunch back here that I need to get another shelf. But I digress.
Yeah,
Um. Uh yeah. Also over here on my well, another mini shelf. There's a bunch of other things here too.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, it's but yeah. Oh, you're in the 2023 class, I see. Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. It's gonna be a year. What is this? July, August, in September. It'll be a
Oh, very
year in
nice.
September.
Yeah,
All right.
I started mine in January of last year. Well, I started it again because I've had an interesting journey. I had a kind of booktube channel where I was just kind of reviewing stuff that I liked, and those videos sucked, and I got rid of them recently. So yeah, you can't see them anymore. But it was just me kind of rambling for like 20 minutes, and then I just put them up, and I'm just like, well, that sucked. So I stopped doing that. I basically used it for like podcasts I've been doing, which I still do. Some of them I still
Mhm.
do. Um, and then I'm like, looking around. I'm like, oh, these people are kind of doing this booktube thing, and people were like, oh, you should do it. And I'm like, yeah. And I saw
Mhm.
like Brian Lee Durfee doing it, and I'm like, well, I guess I should do it. He's doing it with his little phone, and I hope he's doing well because he's not. I'm kind of
I
struggling
know.
recently.
No, I loved his videos as well.
But I'm like,
His
if he's
unique
doing
little
it on his
spin.
little phone and like just
Hmm.
him doing his own thing,
Single cut
no,
usually.
like doesn't edit, like I have no excuse whatsoever. So there you go. I have 370 subscribers now. I'm very very blessed for all of them. But yeah,
Yeah, people that can get through the entire video with no edits. I don't know how they do it.
it's
Like
hard. It's
Mike's
really
book
hard.
reviews, he just goes off and he goes down with the script. And I don't even know if he uses a script to be honest, because it just sounds all natural, completely fluid. For me, sometimes like when I first starting out, for example, like I had to go back and forth from the script, saying what I had written down, looking at the camera, saying it in the camera. It took me a while to get used to it, and like even still to this day, I'll get messed up.
Yeah, I make bullet points for myself because I actually made a video recently. It was a tag video actually, and I just rambled on and it went on for a while, and I'm like, yeah, that's why I don't generally go off the cuff that often, because if I start going, it'll go off in 20 different directions. So yeah, but
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, your videos are really well made from what I've seen of them, and you also have like live content where you talk with indie authors, and I saw oh god, who'd you have on? You had the throwdown with with. I'll admit it was kind of funny. I thought like it was gonna be like a debate or something, like this
Hmm.
book versus this book. Like I thought like John and Brian were gonna defend the first law, and like you and Philip would defend a Game of Thrones. I it didn't occur to me that it would be like you guys
Hmm.
just amongst yourselves just going like, oh, okay, what does this better, and like, cause so yeah, that kind of threw me threw me off. But that was a good
Yeah,
stream. I had a lot of fun watching that.
the thumbnail kind of alludes to us debating it, kind of, but it was out just to get a good discussion going instead of debating. I thought just going through, whatever worked best for us personally, and just giving it on a 1 to 10
Yeah, yeah.
subjective
I,
scale.
I guess you
What?
also kind of didn't help yourselves with the WWE style gifs on Twitter. I was
But
texting John because I'm good friends with John Minton, and I'm like, oh man, good luck, because I know Game of Thrones is like his favorite series ever. So I was like, good luck trying to figure out how you're gonna defend the first law, and he's like, I'll try.
no, it was a lot of fun. It was a good time. I'm trying to figure out what books to put into the ring next, because I've done a Game of Thrones, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and The Blade itself, which are two huge books. I've done the first Stormlight Archive, The Way of Kings, um, versus what was the book of that we versed on that one? See, it's been already a few months, and I already have it in the back of my mind.
It's fine.
Book, and
um,
then Quinn and I we did Hyperion versus Dune, so I'm thinking about going back and doing a sci-fi battle. But like, which two huge sci-fi books are out there besides Dune and Hyperion? So I'm trying to figure out which books to
I
bring up
mean,
next.
hell, if you want to go for like old school sci-fi, you can go like Asimov or someone. I don't know, but I'm not an
Maybe
expert.
Leviathan Wakes versus. Maybe I should bring in the first Sun Eater book at some point too by Christopher Rocchio.
Yeah,
That
I
would be kind
still
of
need to
interesting.
read those. videos because it's interesting. I've watched like Christopher Rocchio be interviewed. He seems like a really interesting guy. I think even you've interviewed him, haven't you? You've talked to him.
Yes, he was my second or third interview on the channel, and I was blown away that he even messaged me back, and I was ecstatic. He's one of my favorite authors of all time, and at the time, I was, way littler than I am now, and he agreed to be on the channel. I was like, oh my god, dreams are coming true here. So
Yeah,
it was a
it's interesting.
fun
He's
time.
he's been pretty like outgoing with booktubers, so I find that always interesting. And he's like trad pubbed, He's like,
Hmm.
you know, I guess he's at that stage where the trad publishers just kind of let him do what he wants. I don't know.
He's a blowing up trad publisher now. I mean, Daw just got him back from Bane, so I bet that was a huge in Daw's mind. They're like, okay, we need to get this guy back somehow because this book series is blowing the heck up, and I'm so excited that it is. When I first came on to the Sun Eater craze, Howling Dark was available to buy, on Prime, Amazon,
Hmm.
and then a few months later, out of stock for like a year or a year and a half, where no one can get Empire Silence or Howling Dark hardcovers for the longest time, right? But now we're bringing them back into circulation now because the readers have spoken and they want the hardcovers. Okay.
Fair enough. I mean, you can't argue with the audience. It's um, you know, I
If you
Oh,
print them, they will come.
maybe you could do a Crichton book like Andromeda Strain, or is it Strain? I think it's
Oh,
Andromeda
that's a
Strain.
great idea. Something Jurassic Park versus something.
Yeah,
That's a
something
good
like
idea.
that. I'm more of an Andromeda Strain because I don't know, I like post-apocalyptic stuff.
I haven't read that one
Though
yet.
it's
Andromeda Strain.
kind of it's an outbreak novel, I guess. So yeah,
Okay.
whatever. It's a good one. I do like some Crichton.
The last Crichton I read was Sphere,
Yeah, I saw that.
which I loved. I thought it was a fantastic book. It blew me away. I had
Isn't
when
that a
I
time travel one?
not no, not really. I mean,
No,
it's a
wait, I think that's
component in
another
there.
one. I think that's another one. If anyone in the comment section will watch this when this goes up, tell me. I think it's Timeline. Is this time travel one? But
Timeline.
anyway,
Timeline.
what's Sphere? Tell me what Sphere is.
That's the one where it's underwater,
Oh, okay, okay.
where they find a alien alien spaceship underwater on the ocean floor, and a survey team, which I thought was kind of funny because in Jurassic Park they have a team of scientists go check out the park. Well, in this book, a team of scientists went down to the ocean floor to be the first ones to go inside the spaceship, and stuff goes down. Man, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I like Crichton. I think people give him a hard time unfairly. I think, but he's one of those guys, kind of like I don't know if you ever read Chuck Palahniuk, but it's kind of like once you get what he does, you're kind of like, okay, yeah, I can, all right, I can, I can put his books down. I don't have to read everything he's done. Though I would like to read some more of his books. Maybe I'll try Sphere next if I.
I don't think it goes that long either, so you can kind of knock it out.
Whenever I'll do that because I have a dozen books I want to read. So there you go.
Oh no, the TBR mountain is always growing, man.
Yeah, I'm looking at your channel and I just saw you made a video. It's not the book haul. Or it was something about TBR or something. It's always growing. Or oh yeah, too many books, too little time. So true. Speaking of the choir there. But yeah, I find it interesting that you I mean, you've blown up pretty quickly, or well, yeah, yeah, man.
I'm blown away that some of my videos have done pretty dang well, but not every video is a banger, right? Because
Mm,
it's definitely a what do you call it? Hills and valleys type of venture on the YouTube. where you have some videos that do super great right away and then they just die off. Some don't do anything for like a month and then they just pick up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So it's just been so interesting to see these things going down. But one that surprised me was I did a quick 3 minute explanation of the book called Dark Matter by Blake Crouch.
Mm-hmm.
That one has like over 5,000 views now, which
I've
I
heard.
think it was just the right timing because the TV show just came out
Yeah, I've
on
heard
Apple
Crichton.
TV.
I've heard Blake Crouch be compared to Crichton a lot.
I can see that.
Yeah. Also,
Because
somebody did one for Neuromancer, which is, I mean, I'm a sci-fi buff. I haven't read that yet. So is
that
it
one was
worth a
crazy.
read?
Oh yeah, that's the pioneering book of the cyberpunk genre.
Is that the one? Is that the one where the guy's literally called hero protagonist? Or no, I think that's
That's
Snow
Snow
Crash.
Crash.
That's Snow Crash.
Yeah.
I
And
think
Snow
that's
Crash was
funny.
crazy. I have the special edition right here of Snow Crash, right there.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
haven't read
one.
Snow Crash, but I
Cool.
just think that's hilarious. He's
His
called
name is
hero
Hero.
protagonist.
That's a name you can't forget either,
Yeah, no.
right? What's the main character's name? I don't know. Antagonist?
But no, yeah, Neuromancer's one of those I haven't read yet. I want to someday, but
And Neuromancer, it's not that long either. I think it's under 300 pages. Um, I would recommend it though. It took me a little bit to get into it though,
mm,
because the prose that William Gibson uses is just unlike anything I've ever read before. I had
mm,
to reread the first 50 pages 3 times for it to sink in.
mm,
But once it did, you're just like, oh my God, I'm immersed to the max in cyberpunk. So,
mm.
highly recommend.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a bit of a weird relationship with cyberpunk because I don't know. I just one of the things is I find the idea of transhumanism, which is kind of when human bodies and technology merge, which is something
Mhm.
cyberpunk plays with a lot. I kind of find that to be a creepy idea,
It is. It is a
and
creepy
I'm,
idea.
I'm sure that I'm sure that I'm sure that cyberpunk. Admittedly, it's my knowledge of it is very limited. Um, I mean, oh man, I've
Yep.
watched Ghost in the Shell, which is a great film.
Did you watch
Uh,
the
Blade
anime
Runner.
version or the live action Ghost
Oh,
in the Shell?
I watched the anime version because, well, I mean, it looked cool, and it is very cool. So there you go. I like that film a
Hmm.
lot. Blade Runner, you could call cyberpunk. I think you could get away with it.
Oh yeah,
Um, Proto cyberpunk, at least. I have read Dude Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, and that's a fantastic book. So,
that's one of my favorites.
it's fantastic. I think
I've read that one
Philip K.
three
Dick.
times.
He needs more. Yeah, it's one of his. It's definitely one I recommend people could read first because you read PKD in stages because I like. I need to make a video about that at some point. But I do like his work a lot. I actually just read Ubik not too long ago. That
Yeah, I
was
still need to read that
that
one.
was that was a pretty wild one.
Yeah, I need to read more Philip K. Dick. I read what was the other one I read? It was like Scanner. Oh,
Scanner
a Scanner
Darkly.
Darkly.
It's my favorite
And
one of his.
I couldn't get behind that one.
Oh man, it's yeah, that's one of his oh man. I always with Philip K. Dick, you have to read him in stages cuz like there's the stage where like it's like pulpy Philip K. Dick where it's like okay, it's pretty weird but you can understand it and then it just progressively gets crazier because he was an interesting man.
Hmm.
Philip, if you read about his life, it's he almost was in a science fiction novel of his own, really. Which is probably why a lot of his main characters are weirdos and crazy people, because he was kind of crazy himself. But Do Androids is a great starting point, I think. Well,
Hmm.
aside from his short stories, maybe. But yeah, that's a I mean, I think you could get away with calling Blade Runner cyberpunk. Was the
Oh
point I
yeah.
was making. Um, I guess that kind of leads because you recently, or I don't, have you put it out yet? Are you about to put it out? Because like I've seen you kind of start promoting it. Your
Oh yeah.
book.
It comes
Um,
out October
oh, it comes
of
out in
this
October.
year.
Okay.
But I did get the proof in today,
Oh yeah,
so it's
yeah,
right
that's right.
here.
I thought I saw you posting about it recently. So,
There it is. There we go.
I guess a good question I'd like to ask you about your book, if you don't mind, anyway, is like, why did you decide on cyberpunk aside from other genres that you love? Like, what draws you to cyberpunk particularly?
I think cyberpunk is one of my favorite genres of all
Mm-hmm.
time. Like you were saying a second ago, cybernetics or body modifications. It's creepy. It is creepy because it does like blur the lines of what is human now. We get
Mm-hmm.
to a point to where technology is just taking over everything organic. At what point do you call this person, this thing, a machine versus a human? And that's just one tiny component of the cyberpunk genre, which my book does touch on in terms of cybernetics, because there's a lot of things like even the tagline at the very top: modifications come at a price.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
So I wanted to touch on that because one, I think it is cool. I don't know if you watched the cyberpunk 2077 Edge Runners
Oh,
TV
I
show.
heard about that, but my family and I got rid of Netflix recently, so I haven't gotten around to watch that.
And that was a really fun one. And like we were just talking about, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep was one of my favorite books.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite movies. Like I have the poster right here for Blade Runner.
Yeah,
That's
it's
2049 right there.
yeah, 2049 is great. I remember watching that
I love
in
it.
theaters. It was it's
I was. I understand why the audience was mixed on it because it's geared to a certain audience, or at the time people were watching Marvel movies, getting this super quick dopamine rushes of just constant action, where this Blade Runner is more of like a slow burn, right?
mm-hmm.
It takes a while for things to happen, but I just love the atmosphere.
I
The
guess
cinematography was
it
fantastic.
wasn't what I expected, which is a good thing, but it was
Mm,
just kind of, um there was a little short they made that kind of was a that was it had Dave Bautista's character, who's like in the first like couple minutes of the movie. That was
hmm
fantastic. I don't know if you watched the short movies they made to complement the 2049,
I
but
don't think I did. I remember
the
the.
one with Dave Bautista is phenomenal.
Is that where he's
Which
farming algae?
uh he's like, no, he's like helping a little girl out, but like when you meet him in the movie,
Oh,
I think that's what he's doing. Yeah, I think.
I need to watch that then. I haven't even seen that. What the heck?
Um, but yeah, I do like the well. Also, the first one is kind of slow as well, and
It is.
it's very, it's yeah. I actually got tagged in Brian Bell's disco that disco book tag he made up recently. If there's a movie I could talk about all night, it would probably be Blade Runner 2049.
Good movie.
Or
Good
I was
movie.
first Blade Runner, because my God, that movie is it's something else entirely.
hmm
2049 is really good too, I thought.
Yeah, one of my
Um,
favorites.
but yeah, I guess like, so is your so have you been so are you starting to like tease people with the book yet, or are you trying to keep it close to your chest till you put it out?
In terms of like what the story's all about,
Yeah, like a synopsis or something.
yeah, I got what is on the back of the book in terms of it's about a detective
Mm-hmm.
who is on a ongoing investigation trying to find somebody that is installing counterfeit or defective modifications into people that are causing permanent brain damage. And
That
you, as the reader, are dropped right into the middle of that ongoing investigation.
that's a good
And
hook. I'll give you that. That's a good hook.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And in terms of that, I'm gonna talk. I haven't even posted a video yet on my channel about the book yet. I was actually waiting for this to come in, which it has now. So I'm gonna record a video talking about the world, the character, but not go into any plot details though. So I don't want. I want to definitely avoid spoilers, but I'm super excited to talk about it now. I get more into it. And it is the first of a series too that I have planned out. 4 books in total. So there's going to be an end arc to this thing, versus like Dresden Files. That
Yeah,
series
I
goes
haven't
on for like 18 books, so
I haven't
17,
read
18.
that series, but I know of it.
It's huge.
I actually met James Marsters a few years ago, but I knew him from Torchwood. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I'm on book 6 now of the Dresden Files, and it's been a great series so far. So much fun.
Yeah, they seemed more episodic, so I'm more like inclined to check them out, but I haven't gotten to them yet.
Oh yeah, like each book is like its own, um, beginning and end. Where there's a main story, right, that is finished throughout that entire book. Of course, there's going to be plot lines that transverse all the books, but each book itself has its own story that you could read. I think almost by itself. Like if you were to pick up book 4, you could read it and not have to read the previous 3 books. But that's kind of what at least for this one, book number 1 in my series, is kind of gearing towards to where there is an ending that can be satisfying, but there's still room for more, right?
Yeah.
So,
I've grown quite fascinated with the idea of cycles, which is kind of in our age where we have these like big massive fantasy series now. It's kind of become a little lost, but it's kind of where you're telling different stories in the same world. So that always interests me. Though I don't know if that's
mhm.
what you're doing. Maybe you're doing like a Dresden thing. I don't know. I haven't read Dresden yet, so I probably shouldn't talk.
I'd recommend Dresden though. That was so much fun.
Yeah,
At
no,
least with the
it's
first book.
yeah, no,
It's short too.
oh, yeah, no, it's one of those. Someday I'll pick up.
Hmm.
What's the first one called? Isn't it not Killing
Stormfront.
Stormfront? Yeah, I was gonna say Killing Floor, but I'm like, no, that's the first Reacher book.
A Killing Floor. That sounds kind of familiar.
That's the first Jack Reacher book. Well,
Oh
that's not
wow.
right. Um, um, yeah, I also saw your recent 5 fantasy tropes I can't stand. I'm like, oh wow, you're speaking to the choir on that one. That's a lot of the ones I don't really care for either. So there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Um. Yeah, like it's you were talking about the chosen one, and I'm like, I was thinking about it the other day, and I've been reading a lot of books, and there are books I've read that I love that kind of have a chosen one, but they're
Hmm.
not like obvious about it. I guess I don't know. It's weird. I have a weird taste in because like I'll be like I usually don't like this, but then I'll read something, and it does that thing I usually don't like really
Hmm.
well. So there you go. So I try not to. I try to be careful when I say. I try to be careful before I say anything like, "Oh, I'm a character first reader" or something like that.
Hmm. Now, I can always get behind a chosen one trope. I can really get behind any trope as long as it's executed in a way that makes sense and doesn't drag you along forever. So like, for a chosen one, um, as long as they still have trials to go through, man, if they still have a challenge to take on and overcome, of course I want to see that happen. Like
Yeah,
Naruto, for
I
example,
I
that
guess what
guy,
I'm
he's
more
a
sick
chosen
of
one.
is like the kid who gets like, "Oh, you're gonna take on the big bad guy," and he's just like, "Yeah, I guess I'm gonna do that." So I don't know. I don't like those so much.
Hmm.
I've grown kind of tired. I think it's kind of played out, but maybe
Yeah.
there's gonna be a book I'll read where I'll be like, "Okay, yeah, this is good,"
Hmm.
but. I saw it, like, you're talking about Dark Lords, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't mind Dark Lords so much, um, as long as they, like, have a motivation that makes sense. Like,
Hmm.
Sauron, for instance, in Lord of the Rings, like, I mean, he might be the quintessential Dark Lord, but he just wants order, It's not necessarily that he's just like, oh, I'm evil, you know? So it's complicated stuff. So I
Hmm.
try to, again, I like that video though. I'm not trying to like criticize you or anything.
No, thank you.
I mean, you
That's
have more
fun.
subscribers than I do, so I mean, I shouldn't tell you what to do. So I'm not gonna try. You're doing
Oh, you're
something
good,
right.
man. I'm just having fun over here in the booktube space. It's a good time. What's your next video? What do you have planned?
Well, I'm going to be this week. I'm just gonna be like, I got tagged in some stuff, so I'm gonna just do those because, to be honest, I didn't really have a lot of things going on, or I didn't really have a lot of because there's a lot of videos I want to do, but a
I
lot
know,
of
yeah.
them have to do with other people that I want to get on, and that's always as much as I love getting people together, like what we're doing right now. It's often a pain in the ass to get everything. It's like, oh, when are you
Hmm.
gonna be not busy? Oh, okay, and then just.
I understand, man. Yeah, as
Especially
a
when you have
booktuber.
multiple people hanging out with you. Oh God, it
Oh,
can
I
be
know.
it can be pain.
And when I schedule those book battle videos, I plan those like 2 months in advance. Just
That is very wise.
is this day work? And someone's like, "Why so far out? Let's make it sooner." I was like, I got things planned before that too." So so, but
Fair enough. A lot of it has been trial and error on as well for me because like sometimes I'll just be like, "Hey, you want to be on?" He's like, "Ask me in like a month," and I'll be like, "Okay." Like, I think that's how this went down. I was kind of like, "Hey, man," it was like in January because you very kindly followed me on Twitter, and I was like, "Hey, you want to come on my channel at some point?" And you're like, "Yep, maybe in June." And I'm like, "Okay."
the things they've planned out far in advance for me.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a wise thing, and usually I'm like, so now I'm usually like, okay, when are you not busy, and then we can work with that. Like sometimes I'll have friends who'll just like tomorrow, and I'm like, what? Like, 'cause I usually like to do a couple days in advance at least, but
Hmm.
yeah, that's always it's always fun.
Yeah, yeah. As a reader, we have TBRs in terms of to be read, but also as a booktuber, we have TBRs in terms of to be recorded. Right.
Yeah, it's. Yeah, I mean, book reviews. Let me tell you, I don't. I mean, I get well. I don't know how many like. Well, okay. You talk. I don't know how many like reviews you do, but like I've done
I don't have
reviews.
a lot of them.
They can be stressful to make, believe it
They
or not.
can.
Like,
They can.
because you're like, oh man, am I gonna say everything that I want to say, and just all this. Yeah, it's just all this stuff that I
But
can.
sometimes they can be a lot of fun
Oh
as
no, they're fun
well.
to make. It's just like like they can be stressful.
And what sucks though is that book reviews for single books tend, at least for me, to not perform the best because you're catering to one single book. Unless that book is incredibly popular, it might not get viewed that much. But sometimes you hit the algorithm just right. Like I posted a review on Cyberpunk 2077, No Coincidence, which was um, a book that's in the Cyberpunk 2077 franchise,
Mm-hmm.
and that one somehow got 3,000 views. I think it's just because Cyberpunk 2077 is popular by itself. So people are like, okay, I'll check out the book. All right, but then some videos, like I went, I went off a little bit of a different direction from science fiction and fantasy, and I did Where the Crawdads Sing,
Oh yeah, I think I saw you do
which
that.
has 100 views. Right, so,
Also, that
but you
lady
know
got
what?
accused of
I
like
still enjoyed
murdering
the I
somebody.
still enjoyed the reading the book though. Okay, there's always that. There's always a benefit.
Yeah, my I've generally stopped trying to figure out the algorithm, which is probably why I've slow crawled to a good 370 subscribers, which are they're all great, and I love them all. But I'm just like, I'm just gonna talk about what I want, and if the
Yeah.
algorithm doesn't like it, too bad.
Yeah, that's the point that I got into now as well. It's just I push the video out. If it does good, that's great. If it doesn't do too bad or that good, then it's okay as well.
Though
So
I do get a little I do get a little miffed when when people don't watch like video, because like sometimes I'll put out videos, I'm like, oh man, it's gonna do great, and then like barely anyone like sees it. I was like,
no, I understand.
I'm sure
Like the
other booktubers will just like pile in
same
the
thing.
comments, be like, dude, preach.
Hmm.
So just, oh man. It's a grind though, but it's reignited my interest in content creation. So I really like doing it. So there you go.
It was fun. When did you start your channel again?
I
Was it?
Well, this version of the channel, I started it in January. I had my phone, and then I got this new computer, and that really helped out a lot. So there you go.
Hmm. I mean, for all my videos, I use my phone as well. So, like to record all my videos, I just have a little tripod like right here
Mm-hmm.
that I set up, and that's how I record all my videos. Like I haven't really had a need yet to buy like a dedicated camera because I don't want to spend the money on it. Right, the phone is doing just fine from what it seems like, so I'm gonna keep doing that. So it
Yeah.
works.
I mean, but you seem really to kind of, well, since I guess it's also helped because you're kind of dipping your toes in the indie publishing, but you've talked to a lot of indie authors, like you've talked to Joe and ZS Diamanti. I apologize if I got your name
Diamanti.
wrong. What is it?
Yeah, he said that you can definitely put an Italian spin on it. Diamanti.
Diamanti. Okay. Um,
Yeah,
Also Josh Walker, who I've also talked to, who's a really cool guy, and
oh,
Ryan
you talked to him
Skeffington.
too?
I have, yeah. That
That's a
was
great guy.
that's always fun because he lives in Australia and they're like 24 hours
Yes.
behind us, and I'm like, oh my gosh, but we got it together.
Somehow, all the authors I've talked to, the majority of them have been international, like all the time. It's like I reached out. I'm like, okay, so you're in Australia. I reach out. Okay, so you're in the UK. Like, oh my god, I thought when you're reading all these books, you're just thinking that I'm just assuming that they're in America, right? But that's not the case, like at all.
I wish more indie authors would be like Joe. Like I'll like I'll hit up Joe and I'll be like, hey, you want to do this thing? And he's just like, yeah. When you want me. I'm like,
Yeah, Joe's a
yes.
great guy.
But no, most of the other indie authors I've talked to, at least so far, have been really great. I also you've talked to Ryan Skeffington, who I've also talked to, and he's a really cool
Are you talking
guy.
to Ryan too?
I have, yeah. Um,
Yeah, Ryan's awesome. Have
um,
you read Lost Souls? His book?
I have not. I want to though, because like indie sci-fi isn't as big as like indie fantasy. So I'm like, I want to see what that's about.
Yeah, I always found this distinction between sci-fi and fantasy just so strange. Not only strange, just interesting to me because to me it's science fiction and fantasy, right? It's SFF,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people do not read the first SF. They only read the F. And I find that to be interesting because I can go back and forth all day long, and read sci-fi. Like I take a break. From book to book. Usually it's sci-fi, fantasy when I'm reading. So I always found it so strange when I came to this space that fantasy has its own unique, fan base. They only read fantasy books only, and they don't really touch that much sci-fi because I think in their mind maybe they're thinking of sci-fi as old school sci-fi in terms of like hard sci-fi.
Yeah, I mean, I won't pretend that the sci-fi fantasy. I don't mean to interrupt you, by the way, but
No,
like,
you're good.
I won't pretend that like the blurring the lines is anything new. I mean, some of the early sci-fi, like Edgar Rice Burroughs, like that's basically fantasy nowadays because, well, a lot of it is pretty silly to be honest with you, but it's like a good kind of silly. I'm more of a Robert E. Howard fan, but whatever. Um, I will say I haven't talked to Ryan Cahill yet. I know he's kind of popular, at least on
He's
our
huge.
side of the internet. Anyway, he's
Oh yeah,
popular.
and that was a fun call. I love all the interviews I get to have. It's interesting though, is that usually those are not the best performing videos, but I have the most fun in them. So it's still a win-win.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I often find like the videos I do with like other people, like I enjoy doing the most because like I have someone else here to bounce off ideas with. So
Mhm.
that's always nice. But are there any ones you're hoping to talk to in the future?
I do have two planned so far. One is T.R. Napper, who is a cyberpunk author who uh, wrote 36 Streets, if you've heard of that book. It actually won a few awards. Um, I forget which award it won. Oh, Best Science Fiction Novel in 2022.
Okay.
So that book was a crazy ride, by the way. So I read that one. I'm meeting with him next week. And he has some more books that look really interesting to me. Again, cyberpunk. I'm a huge cyberpunk fan, as you already know. And
Wow,
then
really? Oh,
I'm meeting with Gregory. Let me just see if I can pronounce his last name correct. Contaxis. Gregory Contaxis.
I don't think I've heard of that guy either.
You might have seen his cover though, because his cover is absolutely phenomenal. The Fall of the Giants.
Oh, what the?
It's this crazy huge dragon with a guy holding a blue glowing sword.
Hmm. Oh, it's the second book of an epic fantasy. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I'm actually reading his prequel novella in that series right now. Because usually when I meet with authors, I love to have read at least one book by them because it helps spark questions and conversation. That's why I usually only interview authors that I've read
Mm.
before. 'Cause
Mm.
to me, it helps me at least in the interview process.
Yeah, I'm. I often like talking with people because, well, also I am a journalist well, we're on a break right now because it's summer. I work at my college's newspaper, but um, doing these kind of interviews kind of sharpens the skills, if you will.
Oh yeah,
So it's wanted to. I also like talking to people as well, even though I can be kind of shy in real life.
yeah. I think the BookTube journey, I talking to a camera is always interesting. Like when first starting out, like it took me forever for my very first video just to say like hi. Like that's all I had to say was just hi. It's just like okay, that sounded weird. I gotta retry that, and you have to like re-record it 50 times, and eventually you're just like, okay, I'm just giving up. I'm just putting this video out here. Hopefully people like it. But as long as you start though, that's the only thing. Is you gotta start.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, it's half the battle is getting over yourself
Hmm.
because let me tell you, it because I can be a very self conscious person, believe it or not. Um, so it's always hard for me to like talk to the camera. That's why I always like hold the books when I do or when I can anyway. I don't always own the books I review.
Yeah,
I should probably get on that, um, they're kind of like a security blanket in a weird way, which is
like
kind of
holding the
sad.
book.
Yeah, like yeah, holding it. Yeah.
No, my second video was about Dune, and the entire video I'm doing this, just holding it. The entire video, I'm like talking, blah blah blah, Dune, Dune, Dune. So I understand.
Yeah, that's it's interesting about Dune. It's one of the like sci-fi like big books that I was kind of just about, but also I read it during COVID and that wasn't a fun time, so I don't know.
Oh
But
yeah.
I'm actually hoping to read Hyperion. I've seen you post a couple videos about that. I'm hoping to read Hyperion hopefully next month. Really, really hoping. Here's hoping. But I've heard that one's really good. And
That's my favorite book of all time.
that's your favorite book of all time? Why is it your
Hyperion.
favorite? Well, I see you have a video there. I might watch it after I watch after I
Yeah, no
do this.
spoilers either in that
But
video, so you're
but
good.
but like but why Hyperion? Like what about what about Hyperion just tickles your fancy like more than other books?
I think it's really the 7 different stories that you get to venture in this singular plot that all converge together.
Mm.
That's humorous, it's action packed, it's mysterious, there's a horror aspect to it, and also it, like you said, it tickles your fancy in terms of it connects to you as well. At least for me, um, some of the relationships that you read through, it just hits you in the gut, right? And it has a huge emotional gut punch for me. For one story in particular, which is actually one of the inspirations in my story, in my book, came
Mm-hmm.
from Hyperion. Also, there's a freaking crazy metal shrike beast that can kill people in seconds, and it's just crazy. Like that's just a side little plot there. That's
Yeah, I've been attracted to Hyperion for a while because I like Odyssey narratives where the characters go on a journey. Um, so yeah, I'm a big fan of quests, and and from what I've heard, Hyperion is basically about guys passing time while they're on a journey. So
yeah, exactly. They're on a journey in a big space tree ship, and they tell stories, right? And they go on a boat that is sailing through grass. So that's a crazy journey, man.
I imagine it is, and apparently Dan Simmons really likes classic literature, so um,
Yeah,
might be
yeah.
a lot of
He.
references to that. Though
Mhm.
I admit I haven't read a lot of Canterbury Tales, so I probably won't
I haven't
appreciate that
either.
aspect as much as some people might. But you said it's your favorite book of all time. You just said you haven't read it, so maybe I will appreciate it. I don't know.
Yeah, I liked Hyperion so much I have it tattooed on my arm right here.
Oh yeah,
So
what is that?
that's the space tree ship
Oh, looks
called
like a
the
mushroom.
Idrisil. It kind of looks like a mushroom. It get kind of close,
Yeah, I see
where
it. That's
it's a tree.
interesting.
It's crazy looking.
Hi, maybe that's where I don't know if you've ever read I don't know if you read comics, but there's a comic called Saga, and there's a spaceship they use throughout the majority of the series so far. It's a tree spaceship. I wonder if that's where Brian K. Vaughan got that idea.
Really?
Yeah.
You said it's a comic book series?
Yep. Saga.
Tree ship.
It doesn't look like
Oh,
that ship you showed me, but it's kind of funny. You said it's a tree ship.
that's kind of cool looking too.
Oh man, what? Uh, but yeah, no, I've heard that Hyperion is really good, and it also apparently is averting one of the things that I often gripe about. Well, it's kind of just a personal thing, but like there's there's these cultural touchstones in our society, like Shakespeare or oh God, like Mozart and oh God, the Bible. I always hate, or one of my pet peeves is the kind of Star Trek. We've outgrown religion. No, we're not. So it kind of bugs me when I don't see people mention that at all in like sci-fi books. Apparently in Hyperion they do. So we'll
Oh
see.
yeah,
Because I'm
there's
like,
a
yeah, I don't think
whole
those things are going away anytime soon.
there's a whole religion around the Shrike itself, so that's definitely present.
So yeah, again, I've been excited to read Hyperion for a while, but my reading's been kind of slow this year, to be honest with you. So again, I'm hoping we'll get to it at least next month. I'm really hoping. Here's hoping.
What was your best read so far this year?
That is Kindred by Octavia Butler,
I need to read that one
which is
still.
kind of it's hard to put it in genre. I mean, she described it as a fantasy, which is yeah. I mean I won't argue with that. Some people call it science fiction. It's basically a slave narrative. It's basically, have you ever seen 12 Years a Slave? You ever seen that movie?
No,
Or do you know that movie?
I think I
Welcome
know of it.
or I mean, it was a big movie a few years ago, but it's basically that movie just with time travel. And it's not like they don't have a machine. The main character just whoop, just randomly back in slave times, and you can imagine some hijinks go down.
Did you watch the TV show on Hulu?
I have not, though. I mean, looks good, looks fine. I haven't watched it though.
Yeah, that's the one that I did watch that, and I thought it was good. I think there's a second. It needs a second season though, from what I remember.
Kindred's not even that long. How do you not tell the whole story in a I won't go there.
Yeah, I don't think all the answers are given at all, from what I remember in the show. I
On
felt like
the
it ended really abruptly, actually. So
Well, I was about to say the book doesn't really give answers either. It's though there are implications of how it could be happening, but it's not like in your face.
yeah.
But yeah, no, that was it's my only 5-star I've had this year so far. So
Oh wow.
yeah, yeah. There are a couple books that have come close, but that one I actually debated with myself for a little bit. And I'm like, all right, yeah, this is a great book. What about you? You said Wistful Ascending, didn't you?
Yeah, that was my top one so far this year. Um, The Sound of Starfall, which is a prequel novella in Scott Palmer's um, the first ballad series. Right. No, the last ballad, sorry. The last ballad series, who is another indie author, by the way. I met with him a few weeks ago. And The Sound of Starfall was just chef's kiss, an amazing story where you're reading through like two different POVs while a star is impending doom coming to crash into the planet. And some crazy stuff goes down. And
That
it's a
remind
great setup into the first entry into the series.
that reminds me of this detective series I heard about a while ago, where it's basically this detective is solving crimes before this comet comes down. And basically, it's basically like the dinosaurs blows everyone up to smithereens. So yeah, sounds kind of like that. That's interesting. No, but there's a lot of um, yeah. I'm trying to dip more into indie. I'm hoping to read uh, the Wickwire Watch. So another one I'm hoping to get to in the August September range. I don't know if we'll get there, but we'll see.
Hmm.
Um, there's so much. There's so much. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like Ryan Cahill put out like novellas before, which is it kind of drives me a little crazy when people do that. I'm like, just put out the first book, guys. I know it's a teaser, but come on. Anyway, I hope no one gets offended by that. I haven't read his books. I don't know how they are.
They're fun. They're good ones.
Yeah, I know. I talked with Adrian Gibson not too long ago. I do want to read his book, Mushroom Blues, because I'm like, noir, weirdness, sci-fi, say no more.
I'm reading through his right now, actually,
Oh, really? Is it good?
and it's great so far. I think 70% into it. It's a fantastic noir, weird story. So it's like it kind of reminds me of like a '90s detective TV show a little bit, but at the same time, we got mushroom people, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun though. The way he does it though is it feels real, even though it's not. Right, these mushroom people, the whole culture. He really explores the culture of this fungal society. So I recommend it absolutely. It's been a fun read so far.
Yeah, he when we had our conversation, he kindly gave me a digital copy. Though I tend to struggle with those because I like physical media. Like, here's the two books I'm reading right now. So there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So though though my parents, it probably would do me good to get like a Kindle or something because my parents are sick of all the books I get. They're just piled around. So yeah, I mean, like, so what are like some of your favorite like fantasy work? Some of your fantasy books, whatever. 'Cause we've been talking
Um,
about a lot about sci-fi.
yeah, I'm a huge sci-fi guy, man. Fantasy, there's a few out there. I think obviously um Brandon Sanderson comes to mind, right? The Stormlight Archive are some of my favorite. The Lightbringer series by Britton Weeks is also phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Indie wise, the Blood and Steel Saga by E.J. Doble is phenomenal. I'm having so much fun reading through his series right now. I'm reading book 2.5 right now as well from him, and it's great. But also, Dresden Files, urban fantasy has been so much fun because like it's a different take on fantasy that it's not like it involves goblins and witches and demons and all that, but it's in a urban setting, which I really really enjoy
Mm-hmm.
because it feels almost like a little bit of a uh, tangent from the epic huge tales that can span hundreds and hundreds of pages. Dresden Files is like a quick read that's refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, definitely see that. Um, I mean, I haven't read Ryan Cahill, but I can see the perks of having novellas to kind of tease you, even though it kind of bugs me. Just put out the first book. But anyway,
well, his books are huge, by the way.
we'll get
Like,
into that. Wait, do I have to read the novellas before I get into his actual series?
there's only
Or
one
I,
novella before book one starts, which is called The Fall, which you do not have to read first, by the way.
okay, okay.
But I recommend that you do because it's action packed. It's like 70 pages of action packed, dragon filled intensity. So,
I also see you did your own fantasy shelf roast, which it's one of
oh
my
yeah,
favorite segments on Daniel Green's channel.
yeah, that's fun too. That's always fun.
Um, well, I mean, I guess since you said science fiction's more your wheelhouse, are there any sci-fi books, rather indie or more well-known that you haven't read yet that you're hoping to get to at some point?
I'm looking to do Ender's Game here very soon.
Mm.
I've not read Ender's Game. Apparently, it's like one of the best sci-fi books ever written. So I need
I
to read
won't.
that.
I won't comment.
Have you read it?
I read the first one a long time ago, and I was like, the twist. I will say there's a twist at the very end that's really cool, but
Hmm.
aside from that, it's like it was. I thought it was just fine. But I've heard Speaker of the Dead, which is like the second one, is like 10 times better, and I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
really?
yeah, apparently so.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I'm also hoping to get to Mushroom Blues at some point. Maybe I'll, maybe I'll suck it up and see if I can get through it on my phone. But I just feel weird reading books on my phone.
Yeah, it is a little bit strange. Hmm.
I read Thrice by Andrew Meredith this year, which I thought was pretty good. But it was kind of weird reading it on my phone. So yeah, there you go.
I'll get it, man.
Yeah, it's always fun how those things work. But there are other sci-fi books you would like to read. Like, have you read Snow Crash?
I have.
Oh, okay, okay.
That was crazy. Um, it went down a lot of different directions. and I would recommend that one.
I feel like a bad sci-fi fan saying that. I mean, I have a show about it on my channel. I haven't read Snow Crash yet.
I don't think a lot of people really have. Like it is one of the most popular cyberpunk books out there, and Neil Stevenson has a fan base, but I don't think it's as popular as, of course, other sci-fi books out there, of course. Um, but if you do read it, it's insane. It goes down so many directions. Like one moment you're with a pizza delivery driver, the next you're going down robot dog paths. So it's a crazy book. And then there's also linguistics mixed into it as well, in terms of how language is used and how it's interpreted and how people respond to that certain word. It's a crazy book. It's strange, but fun and good.
Sounds like it. So you had a Neuromancer in like 3 minutes. So is Neuromancer good? Did you like Neuromancer?
Neuromancer was great. It is one of the pioneering books in the cyberpunk genre, and it's the prose like nothing else I've read before. And actually, I have a little bit of a nod to it inside of my book as well, since it is one of the pioneering books. Right, it started the genre. I have a little bit of a nod in there to actually Snow Crash and Neuromancer.
So are there other like cyberpunk books you would like to read at some point?
Yeah, I need to read. I just read 36 Streets. I also read Thrill Switch. There's another one out there. I forget what it is. I want to read them all. Let's see. What's the top cyberpunk book out there? I mean, I read No Coincidence. That was a lot of fun. There's another one I'm forgetting. It's like on the tip of my tongue. Oh, I need to finish The Sprawl, which is the books after Neuromancer, or the Neuromancer's, series itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to do those.
Goosebumps. That brings me back. Did you read
Mm-hmm.
did you ever read Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark with that like weird creepy illustrations when you were a kid?
I have. Actually,
Oh,
I wanted to make a video on that one
then
too.
you scar then that should be a scarred for life video. Oh my god. Some
Oh
of the
yeah,
art in that is insane. Like how do they
it's creepy looking.
like yeah, I know. It's like that's for kids? Like jeez. Oh,
Yeah,
man. Love those books. They put out some new versions with like new artwork, but it just wasn't as like creepy
they
as
did the same thing in Goosebumps too.
oh, did they? They put new artwork in there?
Yeah, instead of making it look scary, or at least how it used to look, now it looks more silly. And it just doesn't work for me, the new covers, at all.
I liked the werewolf one. The werewolf of something swamp. I like that one. I wasn't a big Goosebumps reader. I was more of a scary stories to tell in the dark.
Yeah.
So are there like are there future videos you want to make? I
Yeah,
mean,
I got
that's probably. Are there ones that you're hoping to do soon? I guess is a better question.
I do have a TBR in mind in terms of to be recorded.
Uh huh.
Right. I'm going to be talking about my book here very soon, going into detail about what it's all about, the character, the setting, the overarching plot. Right. I'm going to be going into that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, going to be making a video where I'm reading and reviewing a book that I wrote when I was 8 years old
Hmm.
that I found in a memory box that I need to. It's even illustrated by myself, when I was 8 years old. So I think that'd be a lot of fun. And also just like a mid-year check-in in terms of what I've been reading so far. So those
Yeah,
are
I've
kind
been
of like
thinking
the
of doing something
three.
similar with the
Because there's a
mid-year check-in
three
anyway.
on deck at the moment.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. It's we're in an interesting time.
Oh yeah, very.
So, or well, I guess you said Brawl. If I could recommend some sci-fi to you, if you don't mind,
Yeah,
and maybe you've heard of them, but I would recommend Jeff Vandermeer's work, like the Southern Reach
Annihilation.
trilogy. Yes.
That was crazy.
Or you read Annihilation? Oh, what'd you think of that?
I thought it was strange,
Mm-mm.
psychedelic almost.
Yeah, those are
But
good words for it.
I enjoyed it. I love strange type of books that
Oh,
just get weird, which I think is the reason why I think you'll like Mushroom Blues, because it does get a little bit strange in there as well. Not to the extent of Annihilation just yet, but I haven't finished the book yet, so maybe it will.
indeed, yeah. I mean, hopefully you can check. Or he also wrote Born, which I think is great. I actually like more than um, Southern Reach, as much as I enjoy those books. He's also wrote some other things, but I haven't read those yet. So here we are.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So many books, so little time. You were right.
I know.
You also wrote one. I mean, oh man. So I mean, I guess I know you like to go for like an hour. So maybe this will be one last question for you. So
Okay.
like, how did the and this might be a complicated one, but like, how did you write your book? Well, I mean, like what was the process like writing it? I guess is a better way to phrase it.
Oh yeah. So the idea, like I've always had
I
like
can
a
see you're about to say I typed it on my computer. Har har har. This guy's an idiot. So I
like
stopped
it's
you.
always been something in the back of my mind. It's like, someday I would love to write a book. Right. Even like a couple of years ago, I was writing something that was nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
That was going to be how to become a data analyst, which is the career track that I went down. And I went down that path, but it just was not fun. Right. I got to like 80 pages of writing this thing. And I was getting bored myself and I was writing it. Right. So
Uh-huh.
um, I started the BookTube journey, a couple years later. I was talking to indie authors, and they're the ones that are really inspired me to like, you know what? Maybe I can do this myself.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can just think of an idea and just start writing. So literally one day, I had a scene in my mind, not even an entire idea, just a single scene,
Mm-hmm.
and I just started writing that scene in particular, and then from there it just grew into a full on story, and then into 4 books that I have planned out entirely. And then really it's just whatever time you have during the day. I think this will be similar to other indie authors. It, this is not my full time thing. I have
Mm-hmm.
my full time job, so it's whenever you have an hour or two to crack at it to start typing. That's when I did,
Mm-hmm.
and some days the words just flowed from my fingers, and some days I wrote like 100 words, and that was it. Right. So that's really how it came about. Right. I had the scene in mind, and
So
then it just expanded into my brain, and I had to storyline it out. And
so like, did you send it to like an editor, or did you like edit it yourself? Like how'd that happen?
I had 4 beta readers
Mm.
read the story for me. They tore me apart, which is fantastic. Beta readers are fantastic. Well, they're amazing people because one, it's like free labor, right? I know some beta readers you do pay them, but these guys were super nice volunteers to read my story and really help me see where I can improve. Being a first time writer of anything, they took the time out of their day, their week, or however long it took them to read it, and they gave me so many great um, information, advice, feedback that it really transformed the story. Now it's with my editor, Sarah Korn, who is editing it right now. And then I also have a proofreader, Booked, which is another booktuber, Dominish Books.
I know of him. Yes.
He's gonna be proofreading it for me, and that's really how it went down. Right, I was torn apart. I rebuilt it back up, and maybe Sarah's gonna tear me down again. We'll see how it
Sarah?
goes. Yeah, she's a really big indie, or really well known in the indie space. Sarah Korn. She edits Ryan Cahill's books as well.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah,
she's fantastic.
I know when I wrote my novel, I gave it to. Well, I know the guy, so that I got some wiggle room there. But his name's Josh Pantalresco. So
There we go.
yeah, yeah, and like people are like, oh, who's that? I've had him on my show a couple times, but anyway, um, hope I'm not holding on to you too long. Because again, I know you said you kind of wanted this for an hour at least, so. But I'm glad we got together, man. This was fun.
I am too. It was a good time. Maybe in the future we can meet up again.
Yeah,
Maybe after you read
no,
Mushroom Blues, maybe you can read my story in the future at some point too.
yeah,
That'd be pretty
possibly.
cool.
That would be. Uh, yeah, maybe we'll get you on a State of Science Fiction, which is my science fiction show that I run every month. So maybe we could do that. But anyway, no, but really, thanks for coming on, man. This was fun.
Thank you. It was a good
Um,
time.
But as I like to do before I end these, if you have social media, just shell them out. Feel free, be shameless.
Good old social media, man. You might hate it, but you gotta use it when you're promoting books. But you can find me on YouTube, X, TikTok, unfortunately, uh, Threads as well, and of course on what are we on now? YouTube at Bibliotheory. That's where you'll find me. Same um, username across all platforms, so it shouldn't be too hard. And if you do find me, I really appreciate it because, like you were saying, your 370 subscribers, you love each and every one of them. I do the same. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I was about to say I love you all. Yeah. Yeah, no, thanks for coming on. This was fun. We should do this again at some point.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
All right. Well, take care, everyone. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And until next time.
See you guys.